Hello folks, I'm Nal Mehta and welcome back to Digit.com. We are your digital aid and we provide free courses on the subject of business and marketing. In this video, we take a brief stab on the topic of merchandising management along with live examples and case studies. Let's start with the first one. So let's start with an introduction of merchandise management. Merchandise management is concerned with the planning and control of the retail inventories. It is a process by which a retailer attempts to offer the right quantity of the right merchandise in the right place at the right time along with meeting the financial goals of the company. Merchandise management is the analysis, planning, acquisition, handling and control of the merchandise investment of a retail operation. Let's look at each one of them briefly. Analysis. Retailers must be able to correctly identify their customer before they can ascertain customer desires and their needs/requirements to make a good buying decision. Next is planning, which is important because merchandise to be sold in the future must be bought now by the retailer. Then comes acquisition, because the merchandise needs to be procured from others, either distributors or manufacturers. Then comes the handling of the merchandise. Handling involves seeing that the merchandise is where it is needed and in the proper condition to be sold. And finally, control. Control as a function of merchandising involves spending money for acquiring products. It is necessary to control the amount of money spent on buying the merchandise. Moving on to the types of merchandise. First, staple or basic merchandise. Staple merchandise are those products which are always in demand. They may also be the basic necessities of life like sugar, salt, pulses, groceries, etc. Depending on the types of the retail model, the retailer has to determine the staple products for the store. In many cases, these products may be also termed as classics. Next, fashion merchandise. Merchandise which has high demand for a relatively short period of time is referred to as fashion merchandise. Excess buying may result in heavy obsolete stock at the end of the season or when the product goes out of style. Examples of such products include various cuts in jeans, joggers, palazzo pants which may be in style for a season. Next, seasonal merchandise. As the name goes, it includes products that sell well during a particular season. Examples of such products include rainwear like umbrellas and raincoats, winter wear, thermal clothing, etc. And finally comes fad merchandise. Fads, in contrast to fashion, enjoy popularity for a limited period of time and usually generate a high level of sales for a short time. Examples include belts or suspenders, trench coat, collar pins, bell bottoms, etc. Moving on to key topics under merchandise management. First, the word assortment. These entail selection of a merchandise carried by a retailer. It includes both the breadth of a product categories and the variety within each category. Then comes the variety of merchandise, that is the product lines. The variety of merchandise refers to the number of different lines that the retailers stock in the store. For example, a departmental store may provide a collection in menswear, women's wear and children's wear. This would then be termed as variety offered by the store. Next, width and breadth of assortment. Width of merchandise may also be referred to as a breadth of merchandise. It refers to a number of merchandise brands in the merchandise line. For example, a retailer stocking various brands of men's shirts, etc. Next, depth of assortment. The variety in any one good service category, that is product line, with which retailer is involved. For example, if a retailer decides to stock 10 designs of shirts in 5 sizes and colors, then it would be the depth of the assortment. Moving on to the principles of merchandising. First, understanding the target market. The retailer exists for the customer, thus product retailed in the store should be a reflection of the consumer needs and wants. Next, build the merchandise plan one store at a time. The customers visiting each store are different, hence they have to be understood as separate entities. While the merchandise plan is built for the company as a whole, there has to be an element where the peculiarities of each store and region are taken into account. Next, buy what your customers want, not what you want. The buyer, as in the retailer in this case, is the representative of the consumer, and it is necessary to remember that the choice and taste of the target consumer may be very different from that of the buyer. The buyer, as in the retailer, needs to offer what the consumers will want rather than what he or she may like. Moving on to the next principle, build the right assortment. In case of most of the products which are bought or consumed, the consumer is always looking for choice. A wide assortment of the right kind of goods goes a long way in building customer loyalty towards the brand or the store, as the case may be. Then, be consistent. When building a range of products for the customer, it is necessary to ensure that there is consistency across all product offerings. Consistency is required not only in the choice of products offered, but also in quantity. Then, offer value. The consumer's decision to buy a product is not always governed by price alone. Nowadays, the consumer is seeking value in the purchase that he or she makes. Low price may not always be a factor favoring sales, and the perception of the value that the product provides will eventually influence the consumer's decision. Next, understand the needs of the vendor. It is necessary for the buyer to understand the strength and weakness of each vendor and also what motivates the vendors. Next, share information. Sharing of information with the vendors often goes a long way in creating a sense of responsibility and involvement among them. Crucial information is what is shared on a timely basis may affect the long-term success or failure of a product or a range of products. And finally, seek to surprise the consumer. The merchandise is what draws the customer to the retail store. If the merchandise in the retail store excites the customer and exceeds his or her expectation, time and again, the customer will have reasons to keep coming back. Finally, let's look at some examples of merchandise management. In this case, Zara. Zara's local production in most styles. Instead of sending production to Asia, Zara manufactures more than 50% of its merchandise in Spain as well in nearby countries such as Portugal, Morocco and Turkey. This makes it easier for Zara to quickly send merchandise to its stores. Local production gives Zara a leg up on other clothing retailers that source production overseas. Rather than producing more quantities per style, Zara produces more styles, which is roughly 12,000 a year. Even if a style sells out very quickly, there are new styles waiting to take up the space. This practice pushes consumers to keep visiting the brand stores, because if they were just a week late, all the clothes of a particular style or trend would be gone and replaced with a new trend. So that's it folks, this brings an end to the topic on merchandise management. These are the list of sources and links referred to for the content in the video. So now let's start with merchandise planning. It is the planning and control of merchandise inventory of the retailer firm in a manner in which balances the expectation of the target customers and the strategy of the firm. Merchandise planning is beneficial to the retailer as it enhances the possibility of the right assortment of goods with the adequate amount of depth to be available at the stores. Moving on to the merchandise planning process. Step 1. Developing the sales forecast. Sales forecast is a projection of achievable sales revenue based on historical sales data, analysis of market surveys and trends, and salesperson's estimates. Sales forecast may be made by the merchandiser based on the targets given by the top management or may be handed down by the top management itself depending on the retail organization. A forecast may be for short term, that is up to 1 year, or for long term, that is a period of more than a year. Obviously, behemoths like Walmart and Amazon have projections which stretch to about 5 to 10 years. Moving on, the process of developing sales forecast involves the following steps. First, reviewing past sales. Next, analyzing the changes in the economic conditions. Third, analyzing the changes in the sales potential. Fourth, analyze the changes in the marketing strategies of the retail organizations and the competition. And fifth, creating the sales forecast. Step 2 in the merchandise planning process is determining the merchandise requirements. A sales forecast is an outline of the level of sales that need to be achieved. This brings us to the second step, which involves planning the quantities of merchandise that will be required to achieve the sales forecasted in step 1. Thus, after the sales forecasting exercise has been completed, inventory levels need to be planned. Planning in merchandise is at 2 levels. A. Creation of the merchandise budget, and next is the assortment plan, which will be explained later. Now let's take a stab at merchandise budget. The merchandise budget usually comprises of 5 parts. First, it is a financial plan which gives an indication of how much to invest in the product inventories stated in monetary terms. Next, the sales plan, that is how much of each product needs to be sold. This may be department-wise, division-wise or store-wise. Third, the planned reductions which may need to be made in case the product does not sell. Fourth, the planned purchase levels, that is the quantity of each product that needs to be procured from the market, as in from the suppliers. And finally, the gross margins, that is the difference between the sales and the cost of goods sold. The next part in here was the assortment plan. The assortment plan details the merchandise that will be sold in each product category, that is, the complete mix of products that will be made available to the customers. Merchandise may be classified as basic or staple merchandise, fashion or fad merchandise. Moving on to step 3, which is called merchandise control, as in the open to buy system. Herein, it limits overbuying and underbuying, prevents loss of sales due to unavailability of the required stock, maintains purchase within the budgeted limit, as in the merchandiser should not go overboard by stocking a lot of inventory, and finally, reducing markdowns which may arise to excessive buying, as if the merchandiser buys in excess, then ultimately the goods or merchandise which is not sold will be sold at a heavy discount known as markdowns. Moving on to step 4 of assortment planning. Assortment has been defined as a combination of all products made available in a store and a set of products offered within a product category. For instance, if there are men's formals, that will include shirt, trousers, socks, formal belt and formal shoes. Assortment planning involves determining the quantities of each product that we purchase to fit into the overall merchandise plan. Details of color, size, materials, brand, etc. have to be specified. Various factors affect the assortment planning process. The first among these factors is the type of merchandise that is to be stocked in the retail store. Moving on to step 5, the range plan. The aim of the range plan is to create a balanced range for each category of products that the retailer chooses to offer. The number of items or options available to the customer should be sufficient at all times and should be such that it helps the customer make a choice. The range planning process should ensure that overbuying and underbuying is limited. Ultimately, a good range plan ensures that the customer is happy with the range that is available to him or her. A decision only on style may be made on the basis of past historical data, taking into account color, styles, design, and the prices. Moving on to step 6, which is the final step, that is the model stock plan. After determining the money available for buying, a decision need to be taken in what to buy in what quantity. This results in the creation of the model stock plan. The model stock plan gives the precise items and quantities that need to be purchased for each merchandise line. Moving on to merchandise planning example, and in this case of the global apparel retailer Zara. Zara has several merchandise planning strategies, one of them being Zara manufacturing in small batches. Zara manufactures merchandise in small batches, which allows it to react faster to changing trends. Zara is able to bring new styles to the market in as little as 5 weeks, and within as little as 2 weeks, a style can be redesigned and arrive in stores. Another benefit of this strategy is that it helps Zara to hold on to less inventory. This approach allows Zara to see what the demand is like before making a larger investment. Next, Zara keeping up with the key trends. Zara's designers often check out influencers and see what they are wearing to see which styles are in trend. That is, the fashion and the fad merchandise. Zara designers also take feedback from store managers, analyze what customers are searching for on their website, and pay attention to customer requests. All of this data is then used to visualize the next in-trend merchandise. Zara's strategy also allows it to bring more merchandise, with Zara releasing as many as 20 new collections per year. And finally, Zara nailing the supply chain angle. Considering it's a global brand, Zara's highly efficient, vertically integrated supply chain enables the export of garments 24 hours, 365 days of the year, resulting in the shipping of new products to stores twice a week. After products are designed, they take around 10 to 15 days to reach the stores. This vertical integration allows Zara to retain control over areas like dyeing and processing and have fabric processing capacity available on demand. Zara produces over 450 million items and launches around 12,000 new designs annually. So that's it, folks. This brings an end to the topic on merchandise planning. These are the list of sources and links referred to for the content in the video. So now let's start with a brief introduction on merchandise procurement. The term procurement or sourcing means finding or seeking out products from different places, manufacturers or suppliers. Moving on to merchandise procurement process. The process of merchandise procurement, or I may say sourcing, involves the above mentioned steps, starting with identifying the sources of supply. Next, contacting and evaluating the sources of supply. Next, negotiating with the sources. Then, placing the order. Then, establishing vendor relation. And finally, analyzing the vendor's performance. So now let's take a quick stab at each one of them quickly. First, identifying the sources of supply. The first step in the process of sourcing is to identify the sources of supply. Whether the product will be sourced from the domestic market or from the international market is a question here. Domestic sources of supply may be located by visiting central markets, trade shows or expositions. Trade shows are also a good ground for finding new sources of supply. Moving forward, in addition to buying from the domestic market, an organization may seek out foreign sources from where merchandise can be purchased. As retailers today operate in global marketplace, the sourcing of products internationally is also reality, which we will see some examples later on. The costs associated with global sourcing include foreign currency fluctuations, import tariffs, cost of carrying inventory, and transportation cost. Moving on to step 2, that is contacting and evaluating the sources of supply. Contacting a source of supply may be as simple as having a representative visit the office and meet with the buyer and showcase a collection of the merchandise. This is often termed as vendor-initiated contact. The other method of contacting source of supply is termed as retailer-initiated contact. This may be as simple as a buyer, as in the retailer, visiting the central marketplace. Moving on, a decision now needs to be taken on the potential vendors. The above mentioned criteria need to be kept in mind. First, the target market for whom the merchandise is being purchased. Next, the image of the retail organization and the fit between the product and the image of the retail organization. Next, the merchandise and prices offered. Next, terms and services offered by the vendor. Then, the vendor's reputation and reliability. And finally, once the source of supply are identified, they need to be evaluated. The evaluation criteria would vary from retailer to retailer. Moving on to step 3, negotiating with vendors. The retail buyer then needs to negotiate the price, the delivery dates, the discounts, the shipping terms, and possibility of returns. While negotiating with the vendors, it is necessary to keep in mind the vendor's history, his or her goals, and constraints. Moving on, the following are the types of discounts that could be available to the buyer as in the retailer, which entail trade discounts, chain discounts, quantity discounts, seasonal discount, and cash discount. Moving on to step 4 of placing the order. After having completed the negotiation and finalizing the rate, the buyer now needs to be formalizing the order of purchase. This is done by raising a purchase order. Typical information contained in the purchase order are name of the purchaser, name of the manufacturers and suppliers, the delivery address, the invoice address, the price of the products, quantity ordered, delivery date, and terms of payment and delivery. Moving on to step 5, establishing vendor relations. Retailers have for long been cautious of sharing information with their suppliers. However, times have changed, and many organizations work with the supplier as a team to create a competitive advantage. This is something that we will throw light on in a topic known as category captain when we move on to that particular video. Shared information is a vital component of this new approach only if the right information is shared with the right people for the right reason. To do this, the retailer needs to understand the importance of the trading relationship of both sides. Moving on to step 6, analyzing the vendor performance, which is the final step. Each retailer will have his own criteria for the selection of vendors. Key criteria for evaluating the performance of vendors are: first, the total orders placed on the vendors in a year, the total returns to the vendor and the quality of the merchandise, then the initial markup on the products, then the markdown if any, then the participation of the vendor in various schemes and performances, next, transportation expenses if borne by the retailer, next, cash discount offered by the vendor, then comes the sale performance of the merchandise, and finally, both quantitative and qualitative factors are considered during this evaluation. Now moving on to certain examples of merchandise procurement. The first one being Nike's outsourcing strategy. Nike's manufacturing network consists of over 700 factories in 42 countries. Each product moves through 57 distribution centers across a network of 18,500 accounts, 140,000 retail doors. Yet Nike owns no factories for manufacturing its footwear and apparel, which makes up about 88% of its revenues. Instead, manufacturing is outsourced to third parties because of the cost advantages of doing so. Nike's footwear is manufactured outside the US by independent contract manufacturers that often operate multiple factories. And finally, the example of wherein Zara uses a make and buy approach. Zara produces the more fashionable and riskier items which need testing and piloting in Spain. It outsources production of more standard designs with more predictable demand to Morocco, Turkey, and Asia to reduce production cost. Moreover, the more fashionable and riskier items, which are around half of its merchandise, are manufactured at a company-owned factories in Spain, northern Portugal, and Turkey. Clothes with a longer shelf life, that is, the one with more predictable demand patterns such as basic t-shirts, are outsourced to low-cost suppliers, mainly in Asia. So that's it folks, this brings an end to the topic on merchandise procurement. These are the list of sources and links referred to for the content in the video. Now let's start with a brief introduction on the buying function. The basic role of a buyer, in this case the retailer, is to find, evaluate and select merchandise for the retail store. In this process, the retailer needs to cultivate sources for which suitable merchandise can be secured for the retail organization. To do this effectively, the retailer needs to answer these questions. First, what to buy, then when to buy, how much to buy, where to buy, and finally, whom to buy from. Now moving on to the buying cycle. The buying cycle starts with determining the requirement of the product that needs to be stocked in the retail stores. This is followed by the process of selecting suppliers. Having determined the quantity that needs to be purchased and suppliers to source it from, then it needs to move forward to actually placing the order. The person who is to take buying decisions for a retailer organization must be aware of the consumer needs and wants. An understanding of buying process is necessary. Apart from this, a clear understanding is also necessary of what products are actually selling and where. An interaction with the sales staff is also needed as they can offer valuable insights into why a particular product is selling or not selling. External sources of information like surveys conducted, magazine and trade publications and association are other sources of information. Ultimately, the information thus gathered needs to be analyzed and this analysis forms the basis of the sales forecast. Now moving on to the factors affecting the buying functions. Starting with the first one, size of the retail organization. The size of any retail organization majorly affects the buying function. How big is the retailer? Is it a small operation with a single e-commerce website? Or is it a major retail conglomerate with stores worldwide and websites in every language? In case of a small retail outlet, the owner might take this responsibility. However, as retail organization expands, its business product management becomes more complex and the number of people involved in the buying function will grow. Moving on to the second factor, that is separation of duties. Separation of duties is common in mid-size and large retail operations. Often, buying, planning and selling may be separate tasks and responsibilities for a variety of reasons, from security to specialization. When the same person is not taking care of all three parts of the merchandising equation, that is buying, selling and planning, retailer needs to consider how that could impact overall merchandising efforts. However, in case of small retailers, all these duties are assigned to a single person. Thus, it's crucial that retailers take into account who is doing what at their companies. Number 3. Shopping channel. Another key consideration of merchandising is the shopping channel. Nowadays, consumers have a number of options when it comes to how they want to shop. Online, through television, in-store, via mail catalogs, etc. While retailers should offer all these options to customers, it's important they have the merchandising strategy in place to support this initiative. On the other hand, web-based initiatives can be executed in near real time. Now moving on some examples of buying function. First, Nike footwear. Nike sources footwear from 191 factories located in about 14 countries. Virtually all of the footwear is manufactured outside of the United States by 15 independent contract manufacturers which often operate multiple factories. In 2021, contract factories in Vietnam, Indonesia and China manufactured approximately 51%, 24% and 21% of total Nike brand footwear respectively. The company has also manufacturing agreements with independent contract manufacturers in Argentina and India to manufacture footwear for sale primarily within those countries. The next example of Walmart. Walmart commits to sourcing about $10 billion worth of Indian-made goods each year by 2027. Stating India's continuing rise as a global hub of manufacturing, Walmart in 2020 announced that it will triple its export of goods from India to about $10 billion each year by 2027. The sourcing will primarily entail developing hundreds of new suppliers in categories such as food, pharmaceuticals, consumables, health and wellness, general merchandise, apparels, homeware and other key Indian export categories. Walmart has also sourced goods from India for more than 20 years, supporting local suppliers to help upgrade their operations and meet international standards. Ultimately, India is already one of Walmart's top sourcing markets with annual exports worth about $3 billion each year. So that's it folks, this brings an end to the topic on buying function. These are the list of sources and links referred to for the content in the video. So now, let's start with a brief introduction on category management. A category is a group of products or services that consumers perceive to be interrelated or substitutable. Category management is a way of managing products on the level of a product group rather than on the level of a single product. Now let's look at the importance of category management. First, changes in the consumer needs and lifestyle. Consumer needs and lifestyle across the world have changed dramatically over the past decade. Retailers and suppliers have been forced to better understand consumer needs and to meet those needs more efficiently. If a retailer adopts category management, he can focus better on the consumer and define his categories accordingly. Next, competitive pressure. Retailers have to be all more competitive due to emergence of new and big formats of retail like the hypermarkets. In order to compete effectively against these new forms of competition, retailer has to carefully devise and implement his categories accordingly. Next, economic and efficiency considerations. The increasing pressure on profitability makes it necessary for the retailers to focus on controlling of cost. Category management can help in achieving greater economic efficiencies. Next, advances in information technology. Retailers can share and exchange huge amount of information with the help of IT. The retailer can obtain, organize, access, analyze and act upon data required for effective category management. This will ultimately enable them to have a better understanding of consumer needs and achieve competitive advantage. And finally, the category management process. It entails about 8 steps. And it is an industry standard for category management as stated by the partnering group. Step 1 is defining the category. Step 2 is define the role of the category within the retailer. Step 3, assess the current performance. Step 4, set objectives and targets for the category. Step 5, devise an overall strategy. Then ultimately, step 6 would be breaking down the strategy in specific tactics, implementing it, finally reviewing the whole process. Now let's look at another interrelated topic of category captain. So who is a category captain? Let's take a stab at that. The entire process of category management revolves around the partnership between the supplier and the retailer. Many retailers follow the method of appointing category captains to develop a category and further partnership. The retailers select a vendor to help them manage a particular category. The vendor, known as a category captain, works with the retailer to develop a better understanding of shopping behavior, create assortments that satisfy customer needs, and improve the profitability of the merchandise category. Thus, the category captain is a supplier who forms an alliance with the retailer. Moving on to the roles and responsibilities of a category captain. First, planogram or modular responsibilities. Next, weekly reporting of category results, key sales data. Then comes marketplace analysis to determine whether a retailer is winning or losing and providing insights as to why. Next, strategic yearly review by category for insights into tactics and strategies. And finally, ad hoc analysis per buyer request. Ultimately, any category captain would entail the following advantages. First, it makes merchandise management tasks easier and can increase profits. Next, vendors are often in a better position to manage a category than our retailers because they have superior information because of their focus on one specific category. And finally, they have acquired insights from managing the category for other retailers. An example of category captain. Many retailers and manufacturers in the consumer goods industry practice category partnership and report positive benefits. Did you know? Retailers such as Walmart, Metro, and Kroger usually assist manufacturers such as Kraft Foods, P&G, Kellogg, and Danone to serve as category captains. Carrefour, the second largest retailer in the world, requested Colgate to serve as a category captain in the oral care category. It worked wonders for Colgate and Carrefour. Colgate suggested that Carrefour restructure a display in the oral care category so as to merchandise toothbrush products above toothpaste products as opposed to merchandising them next to each other. As a result of these insights and restructuring, Carrefour reported 6 to 16% sales increase in the oral care categories in its retail markets. So that's it, folks. This brings an end to the topic on category management. These are the list of sources and links referred to for the content in the video. So now let's start with a brief introduction on lifestyle merchandising. When a retailer provides merchandise or knowingly adopts a merchandise strategy which will serve the needs of a specific target audience in keeping with the lifestyles they lead, it is termed as lifestyle merchandising. Products which have met with success in terms of lifestyle merchandising include furniture, cookware, accessories like watches, bags, exclusive cosmetics, skincare, body care, and hair care products. The concept of lifestyle merchandising has been gaining importance since the 1970s. The aware and knowledgeable consumer seeks products which suits his or her requirements and is most often willing to pay the required price. Moving on, products have also evolved to suit the lifestyles of the customer. Lifestyle merchandising is also common in the food and beverage business, where certain restaurants may cater to the requirements of people from a certain class of the society. Lifestyle merchandising involves developing products to satisfy the priorities of a target group and acts as a competitive advantage for the organization. Lifestyle merchandising allows the retailer to create a separate niche for himself or herself in the eyes of the end consumer and thereby not directly compete with other retailers. Moving on, how to nail lifestyle merchandising online. First, recommendations for complementary items. Traditional recommendation engines generally showcase products that are similar to the original search query or item being viewed. Now, to effectively incorporate recommendations into your lifestyle merchandising strategy, you can use recommendation to showcase items that go with the product a shopper has clicked on or added to their cart. Next, themed collections. Collections are an easy way to create a coveted vibe. They allow you to curate product groupings based on the business metrics or brand goals that matter most to you. Collections often focus on a season, trend, or activity and feature a range of products and prices. Next, gift guides. Positioning a collection as a gift guide helps you capture the attention of shoppers who are on a mission to buy something for someone else. Gift guides are similar to themed collections. They usually focus on specific holidays such as Christmas, Valentine's Day, Father's Day, etc. and feature different types of products that correspond to that theme. And finally, the aspect of bundles and deals. Viewing a carefully selected complementary catalog of products could be inspiring enough for many shoppers to flesh out their wardrobe, home decor, skincare, or jewelry collection with a full basket of purchases. But with the added incentive of savings, it's even harder to resist buying an entire package or look. Now moving on to some examples of lifestyle merchandising. Starting with the first one is Gymshark. With a decade of creating gym-savvy workout clothing, British fitness brand Gymshark is now expanding its range with a selection of versatile everyday staples. The new collection arrives as a part of Gymshark's latest in-house line called Retake. Retake aims to create versatile apparel that can be put together with minimal effort. Next is Nike.
Nike's marketing strategy isn't just about selling shoes or apparels. One of the things that makes Nike one of the top lifestyle brands is the fact that it has a concept that connects with anyone. Nike doesn't just appeal to the standard athlete, but anyone who wants to make a change to their lifestyle and to their health and fitness. Nike, in fact, even launched their app Nike Plus to allow people to share their goals and achievements with their friends. And the final example of Apple. Whenever you visit the Apple website or walk into a store, you get exactly the experience you expect. A clean, simple, and ingenious world of innovation. While part of what makes Apple special as a brand is a USP, the fact they sell a lifestyle rather than just a product also has a significant impact. Apple customers see their products as innovative, simple, and stylish, which often than not suits their personality.
So that's it, folks. This brings an end to the topic of merchandising management. Do subscribe to our channel where you'll witness such videos daily. Thank you and stay tuned for our more videos.